No furlough, not going back. Well, 4 o'clock in the morning, before my eyes came a sheet of paper. It looked like the sheet that I got from the colonel, where it was disapproved. And as I looked at it, a hand came out from here to the hand, and it held a pen. And it scratched out the word disapproved, and it wrote boldly in script, approved. And then the voice said to me, that which I have done, do nothing. I woke, and all the boys had sunk to sleep. I remained because I couldn't break their sleep. I remained until that very moment when I could go down and shave and clean before anyone else did, which I did. And this thing is permeating my entire brain, what happened to me that night. For 9 days I did nothing. On the 9th day, the same colonel called me in. And after a long chat with me, he said, go back to your commanding officer, captain, and tell him to sign another application. And so I went back. I had done nothing in the interval. And he signed another application. I went back to the colonel, and the colonel approved it. And that very day, I was on a train from Camp Polk, Louisiana, to New York City, honorably discharged. To this day, none of them knew or know what I did. I did it all in my imagination. I believed that what I did was fact. I believed that my imaginal act creates facts, and therefore I actually lived in my apartment, and I was not any longer a soldier. I was a civilian, but I was honorably discharged from the army, not dishonorably. And in 9 days, it was fulfilled. I can multiply that story by hundreds if one will actually do it, for we are the operant power. Instead of doing strange things and getting in wrong with the government and fighting for your objectives, you don't fight at all. The voice said to me, that which I have done, do nothing. Well, where was that voice? Within me. That very voice that I heard coming from without was whispering from within me. The voice that said to Moses, I am, that is who I am. And he heard us coming from without what is being whispered from within. For are we not told in Scripture that we are the temple of the living God, and the Spirit of God dwells in us? And God is Spirit. Well, if the Spirit of God dwells in us, then how could I hear it from another? He is coming from within myself. And so I heard it. When I could not get any passage, I did the same thing when I seemingly was locked in an island for months to come because there was no ships coming. I did the same thing. I remember what I did in the army to get out. I did it when I was in an island and could not get out. And there are a long, long list waiting, and they called me and gave me passage for my wife and my little girl and myself. And yet there were thousands waiting all through the Indies to get out, and only 2 little ships servicing the entire group of islands. And I simply got out. It doesn't matter how. I did it normally. I didn't kill anyone. I didn't bribe anyone. I didn't pull any strings. I simply applied this principle. If I actually got passage, would I sail? Yes. Well, then I assumed that I'm on a ship. And looking back nostalgically at the little island, leaving behind me my friends and my relatives, and taking with me my wife and my daughter. And I look back, and it seemed so normal and so natural. I gave it tones of reality. I could feel the salt of the sea on the rail as I held the rail of the ship. I could smell the rawness of the ocean, and I could see the island. And then, within a matter of 24 hours after I did it, I got a call from the Alcor Steamship Company to come on down and see them. I went down, and they said, we have a passage for you. There are only 2 beds, but the little girl can sleep with her mother, and you can sleep up. And so there were 2 bunks. And it's a lovely ship, small, only carrying 60-odd passengers. But I sailed and came back on time, as I was committed to go to Milwaukee the 1st of May. And I got there in time. So I asked everyone to believe in God. But God is not something on the outside of you. God is your own wonderful human imagination. If you have any other God, you have a false God. Therefore, do not feed him anything but loving thoughts. Nothing but loving thoughts. Always exercise your imagination lovingly on behalf of everyone in this world. It doesn't cost you anything, and it doesn't hurt anyone. And you will find yourself becoming the man that you want to be, the lady that you want to be. And you'll move from stage to stage to stage without hurting anyone and fulfilling all of your dreams. Then you'll know how true the statement is, that all things are possible to him who believes. Because with God, all things are possible. And you have found God. You have found him in yourself as your own wonderful human imagination. That is God, as stated so clearly in Scripture. He is called in Scripture the potter, and the word potter means imagination. So I go down to the potter's house to see how he does it. And he was working at his instrument. And there he was at a field making something out of clay. But what he had, the vessel he had in his hand, was spoiled. And he reworked it into another vessel, as it seemed good to him to do. He didn't destroy it. He didn't discard it. He reworked it into another vessel. So you don't discard anyone. You rework him. See him as you would like to be seen by the world. See him in a more noble light. So you rework him in your own imagination and believe in what you've done, and he will conform to it. So you don't discard anyone as something that cannot be remedied, that cannot be made right in this world. You make him right in your own mind's eye. For the potter is your own wonderful human imagination. And any vessel you hold, whether it be a man or yourself, see that it is lovely, that you are actually the man that you want to be, that those round about you, they are what they would like to be, and have a nice vivid imagination of it, a clear idea of what you really want in this world, and a determinate vision of things as they ought to be, and have them all fixed in your own mind's eye, and believe it, and in a way that no one knows, they will all come to pass. They will not fail you. You do not need any background to apply this principle. If you have no social, financial, intellectual, or any other background, it does not matter. You do not need them. It's nice to have them, no question about it. But many of us were born without these qualifications. I know I was. I had no social, intellectual, or financial background. None whatsoever. Born in a small little island of a very poor white family. A large family of 9 boys and 1 girl. Well, my father and mother found it naturally difficult to keep a family of that size clothed and schooled. So my schooling was limited. We always had enough food to eat, but we ate, well, whatever the island provided. Sweet potatoes, rice, yam, fish. So we had enough, but certainly not a variety of things. And then I left the island when I was 17 years and 6 months, and came to this country, uneducated, and therefore they said to me, well, you can't get a job. Went over to a certain place, I offered myself to string wires on the telephone post. And they said, you're not qualified. I said, well, I'm strong, I'm young and healthy and strong, and I'm quite capable of doing it. No, you haven't the educational background for it. So I finally found a job at J.C. Penney That was nothing more than a good busboy. What's going on here? A feedback? Am I causing it here? I know nothing of it, you know. I can't. Well, if I stand back, would it help? Well, I am sorry. I apologize to those who are annoyed by it. Lower them down. Would that help? Well, try anything. Any better? All right. So here what I'm trying to persuade you to do is to follow Scripture. Scripture is the greatest book in the world, and it teaches you, and it tells you, it invites you, and encourages you to exercise your imagination lovingly on behalf of anything in this world, and that you cannot fail in achieving the goal that you seek in this world. If you know who you are, praying to an external God is not going to help you at all. There is no external God. God actually, literally became man, that man may become God. He isn't pretending that he's man, knowing all along that he is not. He literally became man and completely emptied himself of his divine power and took upon himself the limitations and the constrictions of man. And finding himself man, he now is subject to all the weaknesses of man. But in the end, he discovers and remembers who he is. And then, as man remembers who he is, he shares that memory with his brothers who have not yet remembered who they are. For we are all one, and there's only one God. All one God, buried in this fragmented state called humanity. And so I'm telling you that tonight, and it will not take you long, if you know exactly what you want in this world, and you're willing to assume that you have it, and speak tonight as though it were true, and make a mental image of friends round about you, congratulating you on your good fortune. And you see them in that act, and you accept it. You don't make any excuses about it. You accept it as fact before it is seen by the world. The Catholic Bible translates this statement best of all, as far as I'm concerned. It's the 17th verse of the 4th chapter of Romans. And they say, God calls things that are not seen as though they were, and the unseen become seen. The Protestant Bibles, both King James and the Revised Standard Version, they say he calls into existence the things that do not exist. That I question. To me, all things exist. All things exist in the human imagination, but I need not call them into being. I can select the one that I want to call into being. So I cannot say I call into existence the things that do not exist, because they do exist, but they're unseen by mortal eye.